Good morning, everybody. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to, let me just turn this on Do Not Disturb. Oh. There we go. Welcome to Sloth Mode Restorative. So today we're going to be working on some hip openers and some twists and a little bit of spinal extension. So twists are really great once you do a back bend, which is a spinal extension, to help neutralize the spine. And twists are also really great for digestion. So being that yesterday was like a huge eat a bunch of food day, Thanksgiving, I thought it would be great to kind of reset in a way the digestive tract, or at least aid the digestion. But we're going to start today. Let's start with our heart opener. So if you've got a bolster, grab the bolster. If you don't have a bolster, a couple of blocks end to end with a blanket laying over the top should work. If that's too firm for you, I would just take 2 or 3 blankets and stack them on top of each other. If you have a longer torso, you're going to want a longer length, so 1 more block might do. But I'm going to go ahead and come on to the bolster, sitting on the edge. Walk yourself back and kind of slide up if you need to, hooking the bottom edge of the shoulder blades to the top of the bolster. And just let those arms kind of relax back up like a cactus. From here, a few choices with the legs. You can either extend the legs over the bolster or bring the soles of the feet together, allowing the knees to rest out wide. Outer edges of the feet are resting on the bolster. If that's a little too intense, where'd my blocks go? If that's a little bit too intense, what you can do is take a couple of blocks or fold up a blanket and place them just to the outside of the hips to keep from being too intense in this Supta Baddha Konasana. And here we're just going to get with breath, get really present. Notice what sensations are coming up for you. Notice the breath. Notice the sensation of breath moving through the body. After being here for a little while, you may notice a little bit more thought passing through the mind. We aren't actively doing anything. So very quickly the mind picks up on this vibe and starts coming up with thoughts for us to kind of mull over in our stillness. So it's totally normal to suddenly notice all these thoughts going through the mind, and that's fine. Meditation doesn't mean stop thinking. It means become aware of the thoughts that do come to you, but with a sense of detachment. So we're not grabbing a hold of those thoughts and clinging to them as permanent truths. And we're also not shoving those thoughts away as, oh, it's just a thought. We're becoming aware of the types of thoughts that pass through the mind. And bringing ourselves back into breath. You might begin to tap into that Ujjayi breath. So as you're breathing in, allowing the low belly to billow outward. And as you're exhaling, creating that slight narrowing at the back of the throat. Over these next few breaths, we're going to practice a little bit of pranayama. So as you breathe in, allow the breath to fully fill up the lungs, allowing the low belly to billow out. And once the lungs are full, we'll hold the lungs full for a 4 count. Upon your exhale, let the breath out slow and steady, counting for 4. And then we'll hold the lungs empty for a 4 count. And inhale nice and slow on a 4 count. Holding the lungs full for a 4 count. And exhaling for a 4 count. Holding the lungs empty for a 4 count. And inhaling for another 4 count. And then we'll come back to normal breathing. Over the next few breaths, we're going to start to come out of this posture. Take your time, no big rush. If the knees are out wide, you can use the help of the hands to draw the knees back together, and then take 1 foot at a time off to the floor, right alongside the bolster. Allow the knees to rest in. If you had those legs extended, then you'll just slide 1 foot at a time right alongside the bolster and allow the knees to drop in. Go ahead and bring those hands down alongside the hips, palms face up. Let's give ourselves a few breaths here. Your next few breaths, we're just going to scan over the body, noticing where we may be holding on to some tension. So with your next inhale, bring your awareness to the crown of the head, right at the top of your head. And notice if you're holding any tension in the scalp or the forehead or the brow. The jaw, the temples, the throat. Check in with those shoulders, the chest, the arms, the belly. Check in with the hips, the thighs, the knees, the shins, the calves, and the feet. With your next exhale, let's let those knees float back to in line with the feet. So you've got your knees stacked above the ankles. On your exhale, we're going to press down into the feet, scoop the tailbone up off, or the sacrum up off of the bolster. Press the pubic bone up towards the sky. Give yourself a couple of breaths here. then as you exhale, slide the bolster down to just underneath the sacrum. So just underneath the small of your back. And keep the hands right where they were. Let the body release back over the bolster. And give yourself a few big old Buddha belly breaths here. On your next exhale, we're going to walk the left foot back towards the bum. And if you can, get the top of the left foot onto the mat. So we're opening up the front of this left hip. Half hero's pose or half reclined hero's pose here. And you can gently press that knee down towards the mat a little bit to intensify the stretch. Or just hang here and passively allow that hip to open up. Now, if you're tight, really tight in the quad or in the hip flexor, or you've got some knee damage or ankle damage, what you may want to do here is just tuck the ball of the foot back and press the heel back towards the floor without touching the heel to the floor. This might be a little bit less intense. If that's still too much, another thing you can do is bring a little more support, creating a little bit more space for that leg to draw back. So just a blanket on top of the bolster might do. If you're feeling any pinching in the low back, just try scooping the tailbone under a little bit to activate the lower belly and to keep from dumping into the low back. Taking some big fat Buddha belly breaths here, letting go of tension with each exhale. And with your next exhale, gently slide the left foot back to planting that sole of foot underneath the knee. And just take a few breaths here. Notice the difference between right and left side without judgment or attachment. Notice the sensations you're feeling in the body without expectation. Just be fully present. And it's easier said than done to be fully present. But as we notice our mind, we'll notice the thoughts coming in and out. We'll notice if our awareness drifts off to a thought. And if you suddenly realize, oh gosh, I've been really focusing on this thought, just bring your awareness back into the breath, back into the present moment. And on your exhale, we'll walk the right foot back alongside the hip. Top of foot down. If that's too intense, just a ball of foot pressing into the floor right alongside this hip, pressing that right heel towards the mat. And maybe taking a little bit more lift underneath the sacrum if you need it. And if you're looking for a little bit deeper of a stretch, you can press that right knee down towards the floor. Be sure to engage the low belly by drawing pubic bone towards navel, sort of scooping the tailbone under so we're not dumping into the low back. Breathe into the space that you feel this the most. Soften around the breath. As you exhale, feel the tension ride out on the breath. And you may notice that you're tighter on one side than the other. This is completely normal. Those tighter sides just need a little bit more attention. A few more breaths here. And as you exhale, slide that right foot right back under the knee. Give yourself a few breaths here. On an exhale, pressing down into the feet, we're going to scoop the tailbone up, slide the bolster out from underneath us, and slowly lower down one vertebrae at a time. Keep the tailbone tucked as you lower down, and then release the sacrum at long last. You can let the knees rest in for a few moments. And on an exhale, we're going to hug the right knee in and then the left alongside the right. Squeeze those knees into the belly and drop the tailbone down, or drop the sacrum down into the floor. Each exhale, squeezing the knees a little bit deeper if they're inviting you to. With your next exhale, allow the knees to drop out wide. Your hands are still holding on to the knees, maybe gently bringing a little bit more weight to the knees to open up those legs a little bit, or the hips. As you exhale, we're going to squeeze the knees in towards the ribs and draw them back to center. As you inhale, we're going to drop the knees away, letting the arms extend, but still holding on to the knees. And as you exhale, let those knees drop out wide, hugging them in towards the ribs. We'll keep going through this over the next few breaths, just inhaling to let those knees drop out, exhaling out wide and towards the ribs. Once you've got those knees back at center, we're going to go ahead and let the knees drop out wide. I'm going to take those hands in between the legs and grab a hold of the outer edges of the feet, coming into happy baby pose. So once you're here in your happy baby pose, notice that the sacrum wants to float up off of the floor. From here, as you exhale, just press the sacrum down. So the sacrum is that triangular shaped bone down at the very base of the spine, or beneath the lumbar spine, above the tailbone. The edges meet with the hip bones, left and right. So this is kind of a sacred space, your sacrum, a sacred bone, where everything kind of comes into conjunction. As you exhale, we're going to roll off to the left side, letting the right foot kind of drop towards the pubic bone. Extend through left leg. You don't have to come into full extension. but just extend the leg as much as the body welcomes you to. Take a couple of breaths here. And as you exhale, we'll take it right off to the other side. Bending left knee, left heel comes towards pubic bone or towards the left bum. And we're extending out through the right leg, just as much as the body invites us to. Taking a few breaths here, coming into our playful bear. And then as you exhale, taking it off to the other side. So just stay with your breath and sort of move through this as the body invites you to. Moving real slow, moving very consciously with breath. And just allowing what feels good to kind of keep you there. And as you exhale, we'll roll on back to center. Release the feet down the length of the mat. Just extending those legs long. You can flex the feet as though you were standing on solid ground. Inhale those arms overhead. I like to kind of wrap my fingers around one hand to take this stretch, but really any way that feels good for you. If you want to interlace the fingers and press the palms up, fine. However it feels best for you, just like a good morning stretch waking up in bed, and we can kind of rock the hips from right to left a little bit. On an exhale, we're going to anchor the belly back towards the front of the spine, a nice gentle anchor, not really squeezing the belly, but gently drawing it back towards the spine. You'll feel the tailbone gently tuck in between the thighs. And as you exhale, just press up through fingers. Press down through heels. Take another big breath. And as you exhale, we're going to hug those knees back into the chest. Drop the knees off to the left. Right arm drops out wide. Gaze moves over the right shoulder. And just hang out with yourself here. If you're feeling a bit of a pull in the lower back here, or this is uncomfortable for the hips, try taking a block in between the legs or a blanket. And if this is still not quite enough, you may want to take some support underneath the left leg, the outer edge of the left leg. Excuse me. And what this does is just keeps it from being too deep of a twist if you're real tight in the hips or the low back. Another adjustment you may want to make is letting those legs drop a little further away. Just be mindful not to drop them too far, because this can also create some pinching in the low back. Sometimes bringing the knees closer to the body also helps. Just really depends on what's happening in each individual person's body as to what adjustment to make, but play with it. If something, you make an adjustment and it doesn't feel good, then that's not for you. Try the other one. But we're moving so slowly through this practice. And if we're staying with the breath and noticing what comes up with each inhale, what we feel with each exhale, making adjustments in an intuitive way becomes much more accessible. As you exhale, we're going to extend the right leg out wide to the left. The left leg will extend down the length of the mat, and we're really active for a moment here. Let the left arm drop out wide as well. Gaze is still over the right shoulder, and just press into those feet as though you had a wall beneath the left foot and a wall beneath the right. pressing into those walls. Take a big breath in. And then think about keeping your tailbone in line with the inner left thigh. Big breath in here. As you exhale, feel the belly rest back. Feel the body sink down into the pose. Big breath in. And as you exhale, we're going to allow those knees to bend right back into the twist. Next breath out, hug the right knee. Roll back onto the spine, left knee follows along. Just a couple breaths here. And on your next exhale, switching sides. Both knees come off to the right. Left arm moves out to the left. And I like to walk my right shoulder off to the right just by pressing into that right elbow and sort of walking the shoulder over to keep the spine in line, to keep my hips stacked, my shoulders stacked over the hips. And then here the gaze moves over the left shoulder. Again, if you need this support, if you're feeling any pulling in the low back, block or blanket or rolled up yoga mat right in between those legs. Breathing deeply into the low belly. And as you exhale, we'll extend both legs in opposition, right leg reaching down the length of the mat, foot is flexed, left leg reaching out to the right, and that foot is also flexed, both arms out wide, gaze is still over the left shoulder, and we're just reaching like we're pressing into walls with both feet. Take 2 or 3 big fat Buddha belly breaths here, allowing the tension to leave the body. Tailbone in line with inner seam of right thigh. There's a tendency here to kind of hike up that hip, so swinging the hips gently to the right here can help to correct that if it's happening to your body. And let's take one more big fat Buddha belly breath here. Just allow that breath to trickle down into the hip bowl. As you exhale, draw the left knee in. Rolling off to the spine, we'll bend right knee, press into that foot to come back onto the spine and hug right knee alongside left. You can make some little circles with the sacrum and the knees, massaging the low back. And on an exhale, we'll take it the other direction. With your next exhale, we're going to release those feet flat onto the floor. Knees are tracking over the ankles. Let me check the time. Oh yeah, we've got plenty of time. Yay! Knees are stacked over the ankles. We're going to just take the right ankle onto the left knee. This is one of my favorite stretches. And you can stay right here. Just a few options. I'm going to start with suggestions for tight hips and then move up to people that have a little bit more flexibility in those hips. So starting with you folks that have a lot of tension in those hips, just left foot planted on the floor, right ankle over left knee, and try pressing the right thigh away with your right hand, just breathing into it. I'm already hearing sounds of gurgle or digestion in my belly. So if that's not quite enough, what you can do is place the left foot on a block and press the leg away. If that is not quite enough, you can float that left foot off the floor. If you've got a wall available, press the left foot to the wall and push this right thigh away. If that is not enough, you can reach through, grab a hold of the back of left thigh, and press the elbow into the inner right thigh. Keeping the right foot flexed can help to protect the knee. So I suggest keeping that right foot flexed rather than letting it just rest there. And then this left leg tends to want to do some of the work as well. Let it relax. Sometimes the best way to do that is just to kick it around a few times. And over the next few breaths, we're going to take some big Buddha belly breaths in. And as you exhale, that narrowing in the back of the throat for the Ujjayi breath. Really letting go of the tension in the hip here. And with your next exhale, we're going to take left hand to right ankle. If you've got the foot on the block, just try bringing that left leg closer to you here. Right arm will drop out wide, palm faces up. Take the gaze over that shoulder and just drop the whole position of the legs off to your left. Right foot will be planted on the floor. Outer left leg will be planted on the floor. Now, if that is too intense, again, here I come in with the props. And it doesn't have to be a block. It can be a couple blankets. It can be a bolster. It can be whatever you have available to just rest that foot and outer knee onto the support. So if you come over and you're floating here because of tension and resistance on the right side of the body, or maybe it's on the left side of the body, floating that leg up a little bit just to where you feel just enough resistance, right? Just enough of a stretch. We're not trying to change everything in a day. We're just slowly opening up the body. Just a couple more breaths here. And on the exhale, release the right ankle from left knee. You're going to slide that right knee on top of the left and draw the knees in a little closer to the belly. You can let that left hand rest outside the right knee or let the arms splay out wide. Your choice. And just get with breath here. On your exhale, left arm drops out wide. We're going to walk this right foot back, tucking the right toes or pressing the ball of the right foot into the mat. And just scoop the tailbone under a little bit, pressing that foot into the floor as you scoop the tailbone under. Couple breaths here. And as you exhale, roll back onto the spine. You can hug the knees in. You can make little circles, massaging the sacrum. And on next exhale, release those feet back to the floor. Take the left ankle over right knee. And I'll walk us through this again. So really tight, this might be enough, pressing that left hand into inner left thigh with the right foot flat on the floor. If that is not enough, take your block under the right foot, and again, same thing, just with the right foot on a block. Flexing the left foot to protect the left knee. And if that is not enough, perhaps taking that right foot onto a wall, still pressing that left thigh away. Or reach through and grab a hold of back of right thigh, pressing left elbow into inner left thigh. Relax the right foot. There's no need for it to work here. The only work is in the left foot being flexed to protect the knee. Couple more breaths here. And on an exhale, we'll take right hand to left ankle. The left arm drops out wide. Palm faces up. Just drop the whole position of the legs off to the right. Gaze moves over left shoulder. Breathing deep into wherever you're feeling this. And on your next exhale, slowly take that ankle from off of the knee. Bring left knee on top of right and just draw those knees a little bit closer to the belly. Ooh, feels so good. With your next exhale, we're going to take the left foot back behind us. Pressing into the ball, inner ball of that left foot, we're going to reach the heel towards the floor, keep scooping tailbone under. So once you find that nice balance, you'll feel it as you bring the left heel towards the floor without drawing tailbone under. You'll feel perhaps a little pinching in the low back. And if you're not, then you're fine. Really, it's just about preventing injury to our bodies. So as you bring this left heel down towards the floor, if you notice a little pinching in the low back, all you've got to do is draw pubic bone gently towards navel, scoop the tailbone under ever so slightly, and just find that space where the lower back and the hip and the knee and the leg can kind of be at peace with one another. And as you exhale, we're going to walk this left foot back, roll back onto the spine, gently hug those knees in. Maybe make some little circles with the knees, massaging the sacrum. And then with your exhale, just hug those knees in for a moment. Press the sacrum down into the mat. Squeeze the knees. Maybe even let those knees drop out towards the armpits. Keep squeezing the knees in. Take a big breath here. And on exhale, go ahead and release those feet back to the floor. Roll off to one side or the other and make your way on up to seated. I know, it looked like we were going to be on our back the entire time. So we're going to come onto the tummy here. Bring the elbows underneath the shoulders. This is Sphinx pose. This is a nice little heart opener. So elbows are underneath the shoulders. We're lifting up through the heart. Keep those shoulders gently gliding down the back. For anyone that's on a computer a lot or sits a lot or has just the tendency of rolling the shoulders forward, this might be kind of tough. So we are engaging the rhomboids, those muscles right in between the shoulders, to keep those shoulders down the back, gently drawing towards one another, and open up the front of the shoulder and the heart. From here, as you exhale, we're going to bend that left knee off to the side, just opening up those inner groins a little bit. Now, if that's too much, just bring that left leg back behind you and hang out in Sphinx pose until you feel more at ease here. Again, there may be a little bit of pinching in the low back. If you're feeling a little bit of pinching in the low back, just again, scoop that tailbone gently under. On your exhale, tuck the right toes, activate the right leg, and gently slide the left leg back alongside the right. Tuck both toes and just kind of rock those heels from side to side. On exhale, stop the movement, top of left foot to the mat. We're going to bend the right knee off to the right and hang out here for a few more breaths. In your Sphinx pose, whether the right knee is bent or the leg is straight, we really want to think about lengthening the heart, lengthening up through the crown of the head. And on exhale, go ahead and bring right leg back alongside the left, tucking the left toes. We're going to tuck both toes and activate those legs, really pressing back into the heels for a moment. Big Buddha belly breath in, and as you exhale, go ahead and lower the upper body down, tops of the feet come to the mat, bring the hands underneath the elbows. We want to keep the gaze in the same direction as the heart. We want to keep the neck in the same line as the rest of the spine. As you inhale, think of lengthening your spine, and as you exhale, maybe float it up a little bit more. Keep squeezing those elbows in towards the midline. We're kind of wringing out that back body. Kidney or kidneys, liver, getting a lot of love right now. Just wringing out the old, and as you exhale, release. Go ahead and bring the forearms underneath the forehead. Breathing oxygen-rich blood into all those organs of elimination. And on the next exhale, let's take the left arm out wide, palm faces down. You're going to bring your right hand, I'm going to show this facing you guys. You're going to bring your right hand alongside your chest. I don't have much space to extend my legs out. I don't think you'll be able to see me. Can you see me? Can you see? Army crawl. All right, I do have space. Never mind. All right, so the left arm moves out wide, palm face down. Right hand is right alongside your chest, and you're just going to press into that right hand and roll off to the left side body. The left ear can come to the mat if you need a little support for the head. Bring a blanket I think a block would most likely be too much underneath the head, but if you do need a little bit of support, a blanket would probably be best for underneath that shoulder or underneath that head. If you need it, grab it. If you don't, stay right here. And then we're just gonna bend the right knee, planting the right toes right behind the left, right behind the left knee. If you want a little more across the chest, you can bring the right arm overhead and just allow the back of the hand to rest towards, the back of right hand to rest towards the back of left hand. If that is too intense, you can just keep this hand right in front of you, helping to stabilize your body. On your exhale, slowly, slowly lower back down. Bring the forearms underneath the forehead. Take a few breaths here. And on the next exhale, the right arm out wide. Rolling off to the right side body, bend your left knee. Plant that left foot right behind the right knee. Again, left arm can be reaching overhead, left hand towards the back of right hand, if you'd like. If that's too intense, just plant those left fingertips in front of the heart and get with breath here. Again, if you need a little support under the head, totally fine. Couple more breaths here. And as you exhale, slowly rolling back off to the tummy. We'll bring the forearms underneath the forehead. And on the next exhale, we'll bring those hands right alongside our chest, not our hips, right alongside the chest, and press ourselves back into a child's pose. So knees are maybe to the width of the mat. Some folks like to have their child's pose with the thighs under the belly, and if that's you, go for it. Right? There's a purpose for everything. So here in your child's pose, we're going to allow those hips to sink back towards the heels, and then we're just going to kind of inch the spine forward a little bit more, allowing the heart and the head to melt towards the mat. Make sure your shoulders aren't scrunching up towards the ears. Allow those shoulders to gently glide back down the back once you've lengthened the spine as much as you can. And then we'll just bring the forehead to the mat, bringing our awareness deep inside the body, deep into the mind, following where the breath goes. With your next exhale, gazing towards the thumbs, let's slide the weight forward into the forearms. And then we're going to take hands to where the elbows were. Bring those knees just underneath the hip points. Let's take a couple cow postures here. Just just to kind of open up the spine, get a little movement. As you inhale, again, shoulders down the back. Pay attention to that. This is like one of the most common things I see in class, and I see it walking around because, you know, when you teach yoga, you're kind of like paying attention to people's postures. It's kind of a weird thing. But I see it a lot of this posture, right? And we all know why. We watch TV, we're on the computer, we're on our phones, we're driving the car, and there's a lot of resting back into that mid-spine, letting the shoulders roll forward. So to counteract that, I'm not saying that this is bad, but this all the time is bad, just as this all the time is bad for our bodies. If we're constantly doing the same motions with the body and never doing those opposite motions with the body, eventually the imbalance will start to really wreak havoc on the way that we feel in our bodies. So that's why cat-cow is one of those really great postures, because inhale to arch the spine. Exhale to tuck the tailbone and press away into those hands, opening up the back of the vertebrae. As we inhale and arch our spine, we're opening up the front of the vertebrae and all of the muscles in the front of the torso. As you exhale, you're opening up the back of the vertebrae and those muscles in the back of the body. As we move through our cat-cow, go ahead and wag the tail if you'd like as you come into your cow here, maybe wagging the tail, and then even as you come into your cat, wagging the tail. And the next time you find yourself in your cat, we're just going to bring those sit bones back towards the heels. Roll on up into our hero's pose. Bring the knees together. Sit bones on the tops of the heels. If you can keep your feet parallel so that the tops of the feet are on the floor, great. If that's too painful, just let the heels roll out to the outer edge of your sit bones, the toes moving in towards the midline. And let's just take a few breaths here before we come into our final resting pose. Noticing the breath. Notice the thoughts in the mind. Are you present? Are you thinking about yesterday? Are you thinking about tomorrow? Are the thoughts flooding the mind? If they are, that's okay. Get present with that. And as you inhale, we're going to rise on up to the knees. Fingertips together. As you exhale, scoop your tailbone under. Inhale to lift up through the heart. Big breath in, shoulders relaxed away from the ears. And exhale, we're going to drop the sit bones off to the left. Left hand to the outside of your right knee. Right fingertips back behind you. Just take a big breath in. As you exhale, we're going to walk both hands off to the left. You can just take fingertips if you need to. Use blocks underneath the hands. Take a big breath in here. Reach up through the right arm. And exhale that right arm back down. Come right back onto the knees. Inhale to rise up. Fingertips together, relax the shoulders away from the ears. As you exhale, scoop the tailbone under, lift up through the heart, big breath in. And as you exhale, we're going to drop the sit bones off to the right side. Right hand to the outer left knee, left fingertips back behind you, big breath in. And another breath. Next exhale, go ahead and slide those hands off to the right. We're going to inhale the left arm off to the right. Take a big breath in here. And exhale back down to the mat. We're going to come back onto our shins. A couple breaths here. soften the face. And as you exhale, make your way off to your spine for your final resting pose. So come off to your spine. Come to the forearms first. And get those elbows just under the shoulders. Take a big breath in, lengthen through spine. And as you exhale, you'll walk the forearms a little further forward and let the low back come to the mat. Then the mid spine, before letting those shoulders onto the mat, interlace those fingers behind the head. Squeeze the elbows in, let the weight of the head drop back into the hands, lowering the shoulders. And as you lower the shoulders, you can kind of tuck them under like a bird tucks his wings. And then slowly lower the back of the head down to the mat. From here, extend one foot at a time to each corner of your mat. If you have any tension in the lower back here, I would suggest bringing a bolster underneath the knees, and I'll show. And just like this. And that way you can really get a nice restful Shavasana and not feel like you're trying to prevent the lower back pain. So we really want to get into a comfortable position here so that we can truly let go and get really present. Take your time, finding that cozy spot. And once you're there, just beginning to settle down. Notice the breath. Soften the face. Let the eyes sink back into sockets. The jaw relaxes. The arms and legs are like anchors sinking into the earth. The organs rest back towards the front of the spine. Allow the breath to draw all the way into the tips of your toes and into fingertips. Every exhale, letting go just a bit more. Let the back body feel heavy. Everything sinking back. The front body is light, almost effervescent. You're more than welcome to stay here for as long as you'd like. when you are ready to come out, we'll find a little bit of movement in those fingers, toes, ankles, and wrists. And at some point, we'll gently bend one knee at a time. Perhaps giving ourselves a good morning stretch. And when you're ready, roll off to your side for a few breaths before you come to seated. And when you're ready to press up, use the strength of your arms on the exhale. And make your way to a seated position just for a few more breaths. And then you could bring the hands to prayer position at your heart. If you'd like to set an intention for the rest of the day, allow those words, those thoughts, those phrases to kind of just come in on their own. Whether it be to stay present or to open our eyes and see the beauty of the world around us. Or maybe you have an intention of finding your internal strength. Find a word or a short phrase that will help to bring you back to that state of mind, back into that sort of vibration if you find yourself being pulled out of alignment with yourself. We'll take a few moments here just to breathe in those intentions, whatever they may be. Namaste. Thanks for practicing with me, guys. Have a wonderful day.